So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live stream, live peoples on a Thursday. I'm playing with my Neocolor 2s, which I have in my Derwent art bag, and I have them in my favourite colour order. So that's pale, cold yellows, warm yellows, oranges, reds, orangey reds, pinky reds, pinks, purples, purple reds, blue purples, blues, green blues, dark blues, light blues, cold blues, and then it flicks to greens, dark greens, olive greens, and then we've got a couple of unusual colours here. I've put my apricots and my stone colours up there, and that leads me then to the flesh colours. These are a bit fleshy: browns, warm browns, cold browns, greys and blacks. And I kind of like that order. It kind of works for me, and it means if I go to a red, I can go one way for cold, one way for warm. Orange, I can go for a reddy orange, I can go for a yellow orange. So everything is kind of in a palette type order, and it just makes it that bit easier. Now, the way I'm working in this Magical Dawn is I'm not actually colouring in to a finished state. I am scratching colour and I'm leaving it in all different mediums. So I think that's Neo's, I think that one's Derwent watercolours, that looks like, I think that could be Neo's as well. I think they're Neo's. This is pastel under here, ready to be manipulated with a brush. This is Graphitint, Derwent Graphitint, so they're going to be all soft, muted colours. This one is, I can't remember what this one is. There is a video for all these. So I'm scratching the colour and then I'm leaving it. Sorry about the flash. So that when I add water to it, the idea is that I'm going to fill it with colour, and then when the book's full, I can take this book and this brush, this Derwent #1 watercolour brush, and I don't need any colours with me. I'm going to do it in different mediums, so I'm going to do it Neocolor 2s, pastel pencils, watercolour pencils, and pastels. Scratch the colour in and then leave it. Now if it's just a pencil or a crayon, it's not so bad. If it's a pastel, you need to put a piece of paper between, because it'll smudge. So I'm doing this in order, and I'm scratching all this colour, and then when I go away I'll be able to just take the pen, sorry, I'll just be able to take the brush, and I won't need anything else. So you could do that if you went on holiday, because you don't really want to take your Neos on the beach, but you could take your water brush and your book on the beach, or by the pool. So and you don't maybe want to take all the things with you, you just want to take a book. So you could take this book and a water brush, and you could do this on an aeroplane, because you just buy your water and fill your brush up. Do it on a train, there's no mess, there's nothing to fall on the floor, nothing to break. All your colour is ready in. The only disadvantage is you cannot change the colour once you've done it, except you can manipulate the colour and make the page, and then think, well, actually I'd like that a bit darker, or I'd like a background. So when you get home you can change it. But what this enables you to do is to colour every single page in this book with a colour, whether it be a watercolour effect or whether it be a solid colour effect, a bright, a muted. You've still got such scope for bright colours. No page has to be the same, and the same with Neos. If you've just got Neos, you can scratch a little bit of colour on one side and then or you can put two colours together, or you can put solid colour, so that every time you play with this book, each page is going to be slightly different. So I've got the Neos out. I'm not going to activate it, so I'll put the brush away. And you could do this if your children wanted to play with your Neos and you're thinking, yeah, no way are you touching my Neos. But you could scratch colour, or if you've got an elderly relative in a home, they don't want to be messing with these, but you could scratch the colour and give them a brush, and they can create some wonderful effects. So it's good for children, it's good for old people, it's good for disabled people, anybody that you think, I've got the colours, they can't be bothered scratching it, I can do a little bit of this, and somebody would just love to colour, but not have the hassle of having to work out the colours or have all these weighty things being carried about. So I thought that'd be a good idea for a Christmas present. You could buy the book and you could colour the pages in. And you don't have to think too much. You just have to think a bit about colour. But if you're used to colouring, you know what you like. The crayons are very easy, very soft. You just want a little bit and it goes a long way. So I'll zoom in and you can probably see it a little bit better. So we've got some nice big leaves and we've got like pearls, but we've got some background. And I don't normally do backgrounds, but I think I might do... I have one called indigo, and I don't think I've got that in here. What's this one called? The greys are cold, and sometimes I can't always remember where the name. That's Payne's grey. We don't want Payne's grey. We look for blues, and there should be a nice indigo blue here. Yep, indigo blue. I think that would be quite nice for a background because we've got these stars. And I have tried that here, but I haven't manipulated it yet. I've done this background, just scratched a little bit of colour. But especially the Neos, everything will melt into wonderful, wonderful colour. You won't have... you will not have any lines in any of these products that I'm using. You won't have any lines because it's always quite nice. So the other thing with Neos is if you do need to put a piece of paper down, because the Neos are very, very waxy and they will transfer colour on everything they touch. So what I think I might do is just... And I do need a piece of paper over the edge. It's always easier. And I'm just going to do this softly. I'm not sure if I want to change. With no sun or moon, I think I might just want to do this quite dramatic. And the beauty of these crayons, they're so full of colour that you don't have to get right near the line, so you don't need a point, because when you're manipulating it with a brush, by the time you get down here you've got quite a lot on your brush, so you can just manipulate it where you want it. So there is a bit of skill in it, it's just you can't change the colour. So sometimes you do a flower and then you do something next to it once you've activated and seen it. Well, this way you just have to go with it. You just have to think, I'm just going to do this. But again, you can do this in front of the TV because you're not doing any particular detailed work. Now if you have a very fine and you want realistic and realism, then you may have to do it a different way. But and especially for me, I don't do backgrounds. Now really we should have probably a bit of a lighter tone there. But the other way to do it is to do a flat indigo colour everywhere. And again, you can leave gaps because, I'll zoom in a bit, this is extremely well pigmented and it will go anywhere you want it to go. So just very soft, and you just certainly don't want to press on unless you want a very, very strong colour, but you'll probably get a strong colour anyway. And what I'm just going to do with this bit over here and possibly this bit, and again there's no way I can get really near these little dots, so I'm going to leave them. and I'm going to manipulate it with a brush. But one thing I'm going to do is take the dreaded black, which is something that I don't normally use, or actually, yes, I think black for this one. Just a very soft, just a very, very soft, and you need a flat facet for this, so and you don't want to go mad, you're not pressing on, you're just stroking across the top. And when you manipulate these two colours, it's going to automatically give you a dark edge. And you haven't had to do 10 lots of blending, all you're doing is just taking that black there isn't very much, there's just enough, and again just on that edge. And then we'll just continue round. So it's sometimes nice if you have a pale page, the before, you can have a very dark page on this one. And this is getting a little bit kind of near, so I'm just putting it where I know I'm not going to go over, because I don't want to go over. I want a pearl. I would like a pearl. So you do pick up all this colour on your brush, so you should still get a nice effect. It's very flat, you should get a flat effect. And again, just go around and round, and try to keep it the same consistency, little circular motions. It doesn't matter if you do get darker and lighter, because when you're doing this, you can, when you're manipulating it with a brush, you can pick and choose where you push your colour. Now this is a very strong, it's a very strong indigo, is that? So just and you do need to kind of get a little bit of a semblance of order when it gets a bit kind of busy, but this isn't too bad, this one. And it's a surprise because you have no idea really how it's going to turn out. You know your colours a bit, and you know that it's a nice page, but until you start manipulating it with the brush and being a bit creative, you've really no idea where it's going. So again, I think I might make that into a bit of a dark corner as well. So if I bring out a colour book, my colour book will have pages that spiral. And again here. So, but by the time you've pushed all the paint around here, and you've got to here, you can't get in there with the crayon, but with the brush you will be able to get into there. And you're practicing your colour skills and your brush skills as well. Now, unlike the pencils, the Derwent watercolour pencils, which I've used in this method, if you make a boo-boo or you put a colour where you don't want it, it's not going to come off as easy because this is a wax. The pencil is like a pencil. It's a pencil wax that's in there and it allows you to lift. These won't. So I'm just going to turn that around very carefully. And then crayon in this top corner as soft as I can. So this should give you like a midnight blue. And just a little bit of dark over the top. Again, not too much because that black is very stark. And at the bottom here as well. Oopsie. Just a bit of dark. So we've got a background. We can put our colours back. Again, I like to put my colours back where they belong. Easier to find next time. So if that's going to be kind of like a midnight black or quite a dark colour, I've just found a creature there. There's a dragonfly's kind of little thing there, bug. And then we've got some more of these pearly things. So these want to be kind of an olive green. So we'll flip to greens and find. We've got, oh, that's green moss. There's olive, and then there's a darker olive there. The raw umber. Raw umber's, it's got a little bit of it in. So it's a little bit. So this one could be light olive. Yeah, we've got a light olive, so we've got 3. So again, we can use 3 colours if we want. Oops, sorry. It's different, Suzanne. Suzanne says she's not done it that way. You just pull the colour off with the end of a wet brush, yeah, or as a palette. Well, I have my paper palettes, so I absolutely adore mine. I made big squares. These are my Neos. So if you use them like this with a wet, you can use the brush like this. That's brilliant. And I like my little book, but not a lot of people have got this little book. So this way, and people might look at that and go, well, what's that? It's kind of a waxy substance. What is it? So this way you can turn around and go, yeah, I've coloured in and I'm going to wet it. I like 3 colours, I think, so I'm going to do... now, the crayons are a little bit... they're well pigmented, so you may want to put a piece of paper on your hand while you're doing the next bit, because it will kind of rub off a bit. So we've got, I like light in the middle. So we'll have a light in the middle, a lighter one. And, you know, you're not going to get to the end unless you use the sharp edge. You can use the sharp edge if you want to really get into that space. You may have to turn the page around because you've got to be quite... You've got to be at the right angle for that edge. Again, all these, I think I'd probably just do this, I think. I don't think I'm going to use the edge because sometimes you miss. Oopsie. You can use a point or you can use that. And I think that's the last one, and then I'm going to have the darker one on the outside, but I don't want to have dark to light, light to dark. I think we'll have I think we're just going to have a bit of olive. I'll put a bit of olive in the middle, and then we'll put a bit of dark at the end of each one, and that's going to give, it's going to darken the olive. Oh yes, Suzanne, you can sharpen them, but if you actually make a colour book like this, if you do a square, turn it, and turn it, square, turn it, turn it, turn it, keep turning it as you're scribbling, you'll end up with a point. But there again, I couldn't bear probably to sharpen these. And you don't need to, not for this technique, you don't need to, you really don't need to do that. It would be a waste, and if you turn this every time you used it, it would become a point. Tight Yorkshire lass, can't bear to do that. And then we just want a blob. Because this is quite easy, and you could even get your children to do this, or somebody younger, with your supervision, and they're not going to wreck your crayons. They're not going to sharpen them to oblivion, they're just going to scratch a bit of colour. Or you could go visit somebody in hospital and do it with them, then you can bring the things home, and they've then got the colours there on the page to colour when you're not there. Another idea which would be good is to buy a colour book, and if somebody's got Neos and somebody hasn't, but somebody's got Derwent Inktense pencils, what you could then do is you could colour a few pages with your watercolour supplies, and then send it to somebody, and they could buy the same book, and then you could send it to somebody that didn't have Neos, and they could send theirs to you with Inktense pencils or pastels or anything else excuse me, that you haven't got. So there's all sorts of different variations you could do. Oh, welcome back, Kingo. Excuse me. So there's all sorts of different things you can do for this technique. Oh, excuse me. But you certainly don't need to fill the entire space. Just a touch of colour, especially with the Neos, because they are so vibrant. Excuse me. And because you're just manipulating a little bit of colour here and there, every leaf may be slightly different. Some might be darker than others. And again, that's going to make more interest to the page. If everything was identical the same, it might look a bit boring. So we can push a bit into there. Have that colour out to there. But then the darker one, a little bit more dark. And if you really want to get into this corner, that doesn't look particularly brilliant, but it's so creamy, this paint, it will just melt into nothingness like that. And you will not see any lines, so that's what you don't have to worry about with Neos. So again, we've got the olive. And it's just a bit darker. That's a bit darker. Oops. And then the olive. And turn it very carefully. Put that over you where you're going to put your hand, and then we just scratch a bit of olive. And scratch a bit of olive. Oh yes, Suzanne said you can make a palette out of one brand of product and give it out. Yes, that's a brilliant idea. And then somebody else could send you something else. So if you didn't want to spend a lot of money on Neos because you weren't sure what they were like, and suddenly my light has gone terrible tonight. It's gone very dark very quickly. It's just dusk now, and it's 10 to 4, and the light's dropped. So you could send little a small section of Derwent watercolour pencils, or the I need some more of these. These are gorgeous. Peerless, cut them into little squares and send them off. And so you can get one set and cut them into I think you get about 6 out of one set. Oopsie. The problem I have with those is they're from America, and so where across the pond has difficulty with Derwent, we have that with any products from the US. It's always the postage. So I finished that page. I'll pan out and then I'll show you quickly what it looks like. So it looks a hot mess of scratch colour, but I mean that's going to be quite dark because I've used dark olives and but I'm going to use some very bright colours now. So I'm going to pop these olives in this back into here. So again, I've got them in colour order, so they go from light to dark. You do have to be careful you don't scratch your paper, because this colour will just scratch straight off onto your page. So it's probably a good idea to keep them away, unless you have another piece of paper to go over the top, which I will get. A piece of photocopy paper. And you can always try this out first. Now, obviously photocopy paper isn't quite as thick as this, but a lot of watercolouring on watercolour paper, I practiced on photocopy paper first. So you could try your colours out if you really wanted to. You didn't have to just kind of go blind there. So we've got a peach, and there's a nice peach colour there. Apricot. And I think I quite fancied that with some of these kind of oranges, but we do want a bit of a contrast. So I like apricot. I think I'll do apricot, but I think I'm going to use this red. Now this is the poppy, but I think I'm going to keep it orangey tones because we've got orange in the green. You make an olive by using a green and putting orange in it, and the more orange that's in it, more olive colour it is. So, and of course orange has got yellow in it and it's got red in it, and it's got the cold red because it's nearer the orange, and a green has got yellow and blue, so you end up with two yellows, a blue and a red, and that's how you get olives. So you could play with those four colours and get lots and lots and lots of different olive colours. I'm going to have a red centre, and again, even if I just get that big blob on there, by the time I've got that on my brush, that's going to be solid colour because the neos are really strong. Now if you had a cheaper make, you might have to use a bit stronger. But remember, if it's not to your liking, when you get home after your trip, or when I've activated this, not the same day but another day, then I'll be able to go back in there if I'm not happy. So again, this apricot, so I do the red first, follow the reds down so you've got all the stems, the little stamens, so you know what's going to be red and what's going to be different colour. And again, push that back down. And it's very quick this, you could fill your book in next to no time. Now this is going to be a bit difficult to get to down here, but as long as you make sure you've got a bit more colour, a bit extra colour, it should be fine. And then we'll have this one here. Oh, Alfie's been a bad puppy. So we've got Alfie's not supposed to bark when he gets fed. Go on, Suzanne, get the fly swat. Yeah, it's a bit drastic in our house at feeding time. It's a bit like a zoo. You don't know who's going to pounce first. So I kind of like that, but I want a I think I either want a darker, I'm doing opposite, so I don't know whether I want a darker or lighter underneath. I might be tempted to put just an orange or a gamboge, something that's connected but not connected, if that makes any sense. So where we have underneath, and it's really scribble, but there is, I'm just thinking about the colour. I'm thinking about getting enough colour for some kind of nice coverage. So I think I want, oh, Alfie Cross. This one is called, oh, that's Fast Orange. It's a Fast Orange. Orange is a bit paler. I need to keep in with the oranges because I think I'm going to do this orange, so it's going to be just a bit darker. Just to be a bit different. So the curled over bits, instead of being a highlight, are going to be a low light. They're going to be darker. And remember, I'm not doing realism in this. It's a fantasy drawing. It's not. There's no reality in it whatsoever. So it doesn't really matter. I just need to get into there. And into that one, and into that one. And that's just to give that a little bit of contrast. But it's still on the orange side. He's sending us love. So I've got two more to do. So we've got this scarlet one. This one is this the scarlet? This is vermilion. So this is an orange red. So it's not a pink red. It's not a magenta or Elysian crimson. This is the other side of the cad red. So cad red is a colder one, and this is the next one up, so it's got a bit more orange in it. I'm going to leave that one because I can't get to it, but by the time I've done all these I should have enough. And when you get home you can always go back in with just the colour and just manipulate it a bit better, which I probably will do. So I'll probably do that so that you can see that, you know, if anything's not to my liking, you can go back in it, just like you can as an artist, you know, you go back to it. So you can always add a bit more. What you can't do with any watercolour is go lighter without adding some other type of medium. And I do like a bit of consistency. I'm not really into mixed media. Wasn't taught that way, so it's always a difficult one to do. So perhaps when I go back into my scrapbooks, which I plan to do very shortly, that might be different. So again, just that little bit of orange is gonna change that. And again, I do want a little bit in there. And I do want a pale background, so I don't really want to get red everywhere. So I think that's about as red as we're going to get. But there will be enough to do everything. And then last but not least, oops, I missed a bit down here. But there will be a lot of colour. These are very well pigmented, so there's going to be a lot of colour on there. And as I say, it's not going to look anything like this. So I've got the crinkle. So we put this one in first. And by using it, you've created little flat facets of flatness. I think that's just dark, so I need to put that dark. And again, there's nothing to stop me putting something dark around each of those little snowflakes if I wanted to. And there's something quite nice, you know, it's quite easy to do this. Again, it's not much pressure on your hands. You're just making little marks of colour, so you can be fairly quick. And then finally we'll put the orange on there. Now next time I might put the orange on the other side, so it will look like it's a highlight. So we've got a bright orange petal, and then we've got a bit of a curl over, which is a highlight. But this time I decided to do it like the olive, the darkest on the outside and in. I don't know what that is. I think, oh, that's a stem, and that's right. So what we want to do now is bob these away carefully, because we don't want to make a boo-boo. And I do need this indigo back again. So this is dark, and again you do need a bit of paper sticking out of the bottom. This is background, and that's background as well. Now, I did put that a little bit darker, and oops. It's nice just to put there because you don't forget it's not all green. You can have a quick look to make sure everything's covered. There will be quite a bit of colour on the end of the brush, so you can manipulate it round, so you don't have to worry too much about that. And then we have a bug here, so I think I've got two of my fave colours here that I like to use. And there is a pale blue. And then there's a green colour. Now I've done this several times, this technique, so you can have a look. And in Near Colour 2's, I think it's called manipulating colour, scratching colour without activating it. And then I think I need a little bit of soft purple. Blue purple. And this little bug is going to really show up because it's solid colour. And I think I'm going to put the tiniest bit of pink. Oh yes, yes I will do. This is why I'm doing this particular one. This particular book I'm doing like that. I don't know if I've done a different one. Let me have a look. This was a very pale version, and I did a video, but it was in time lapse. I didn't realise, and I just scratched a little bit of colour, and then I manipulated. But this is, I'm sure this is Neocolor 2's, but it's a 60-second time lapse. What else I've done on that one? I'm sure I've done quite a few of them. That's pastel work. This was Derwent. This was Derwent Art Bars, I think, that one. That one was that was Peerless, I think, that one. This is the one that I scratched a little bit of colour and then blended two together. These were the new pencils that I'd got. Now, I'd forgotten how I did that one, but I think I've remembered. This was Peerless as well. Beautiful colours, all from these squares. So you can always be dark and bright. These little squares of Peerless did all this work. That one was scratched a bit of colour, three colours together. Should be videos on all these. This one was pastel pencil, manipulated with a damp brush, same way. I'm going back to this method because it's easier on my hands. This was Inktense blocks, a little bit scratched in and then manipulated with a damp rigger. I think this was either Peerless or Hydrus, just can't remember. Well, unfortunately, they don't make the art bars anymore. I did there is a comparison on one of the videos for Derwent art bars and Neo's. But I had so many requests of where to get them, and they don't make them anymore. So I've stopped making videos for that reason. I don't think I've done anything in this one, have I? Oh, I've put here, only Derwent watercolours. So this one is a new book that I bought a few months ago. I haven't done anything with it, except for have a practice in it. But I've decided that my new Derwent watercolour pencils, this is all I'm using. This whole book is going to be covered in Derwent watercolour pencils and nothing else. And you'll see the different pages and the different techniques and the different colours that you can use. I'm just trying to think of... I think it's this one. Let me have a look. This was Neo's. This was scratched. This is the one, that first one I did. This is scratching Neocolor 2s and without manipulating it. Oh, do they still sell them on Amazon? I did find one or two, but mine were old and broken. They're a little bit crumblier, but they are a professional watercolour. They were for artists. They weren't for colourists. It's before colourists came along. They were for artists. And I think... Oh, thank you, Suzanne. Suzanne's put the link in. www.amazon.derwentartbar. Oh, well, I'll have to have a look at that. Because... but this one was scratch colour. There's two videos. One I scratched the colour and then one I manipulated it. And the orange wasn't quite bright enough, so I think I kind of tarted it up a bit. But that was the first attempt on a big scale. And I think this was so dark when I manipulated it, I did all these trees. That's how strong that colour was. And this was the indigo. So when I was doing this watercolour, you'll see me flip over and I did all these trees with the brush, with the colour. So I didn't wash the brush away, I washed the colour away. That was Neo's. This was a comparison video. These are Neocolor 2s, and these are Derwent Art Bars. So you can see, you can pick some colours. Now I did prefer slightly the Derwent Art Bars, have some very unusual colours. They have earth tones, they have brights, they have 4 other tones, I can't remember them. What else have we done in here? I don't think that was Neo. This was a comparison, but I can't remember now. I can't remember what this was. This was a comparison. Yes, that's how I had a set, and then I bought that I bought from eBay, and then I bought singles. This is Derwent Art Bars, scratched and manipulated, and some of these are my Neos. So what I was using is the Neo Art Bars and my Neocolor 2s, and then my Neo Art Bars, which are quite vintage, but very slightly different colours. So again, I need to address quite a lot of things in here. So this video shows you how to scratch the colour and then how to manipulate it. What else we've done in here? This was pastel pencil, I think, but I want to do it soft. And this is the one that I did one-handed. This is the Peerless. Again, I was in hospital where you didn't really, in a stroke ward, so you didn't really want to start rattling all your pencils and your pens, and I couldn't concentrate on reading or anything, so I just sat there with hubby, held his hand, and I used the tea rose. That's why it's nearly all missing, so I need some more. And I just sat and I started with the strong colour on the end, and then just went to different parts. So I went from dark to medium to pale to palest. I did the same with the green. So I used 2 squares. I used it, and there's still quite a lot of colour on there, but a lot of it was used. And then I used the green. I think I used grass green. But there's still quite a lot of colour on there. And again, touched a leaf, went back, touched a bit more, went paler, paler, paler. And I did it one-handed because I was holding hubby's hand. So this little book is quite magic if you want to take this instead of a suitcase of things. But you can make it for whatever products you have. If I just had the Neocolor 2s or the Derwent pencils, I would do a full square of one colour. So I would have so many colours, and then I might mix 2 colours together, so put a pale blue and a light blue, then I'll have another colour blue, so and then put reds to it, and just mix all the colours you've got together to make hundreds of colours. And so you don't need lots of different products, it's just this was for me, so I didn't have to carry things around. So again, it was a big space. I didn't really like it that much, but I didn't really crinkle the page either. So sorry, you asked about that. So that's what it looks like. And there's a video on me scratching the colour, and then part 2 is just getting a damp brush and just manipulating it. I think I did it with quite a wet brush, but it's okay, it works, it's bright, it's colourful. And I really enjoyed that. But these colour was so strong that I could only manipulate a little bit, and then I could go back to here and colour all these in. And all this colour would have been washed away if you'd have done it with a brush. So that's that one. I think I've probably done that before because I've used this method quite a lot. And again, you can use it quite dry. You don't have to give it a lot of wet. Let me have a look in this one. This is Hydrus. So this page was going to be Hydrus and Peerless, because they're both extremely vibrant. Let's see if I've got another Peerless. These are Peerless. So this book was quite good for that. This is that was watercolour. This was pastel. Pastel, exactly the same way. Pastel scratched in and blended, and then just dried with a brush. So it's not a pastel anymore, it's a watercolour. Oh, hi Miss Ali, anybody else popping in? Oh, thank you Miss Ali, thank you. So the art bars are really similar. It's to do with the pigment. They're a little bit less, a little bit more crumblier. Are the art bars, but pigment and the colours are slightly different. I like them because they have some earthy ones, whereas Neos are kind of more fake colours. But it depends if you like bright colours or not. But then you can always mix two bright colours together and get a dull colour. What have we got in here in this one? I haven't done anything in here very much, so I think this is another one that I need to get to grips with. This was just using paint up, I think, if I remember. Yeah, this was just using paint up that would have gone down the drain. So things are getting paler and paler and paler. So this is a very pale thingy colours instead of the very bright, vibrant colours. So I might start doing some more in here with the watercolours. So that one is the end of part 1 of another page. So we've got 1, 2, 3. Again, that's Derwent pencils. I think this one is Inktense pencils. And I've purposely covered this very, very strongly in past. And this is what gave me the idea. These are Derwent watercolour pencils. Oops, sorry, it's flashing out. But such wonderful colours. And that's before they've been activated. These are Inktense. This is Neo. I think this is both Neo as well. But there are videos. That's pastel, so the pastel will rub off until I've activated it with a damp brush, and then it'll be set. There's no chemicals, nothing. The only thing I need is a piece of paper between. This is Derwent Graphitin. Again, I've not scratched right to the edge because I want some really soft, beautiful watercolour effects. This one looks like a pencil. It could be the new pencils I've got. This was Neo, I'm pretty sure. And again, I've only gone around the edge. So when I manipulate this colour, I'm going to have beautiful watercolour effects. This is completely covered, nearly every inch is covered, except for the little whites. And I might leave those as pearls, haven't decided yet. Very, very dark, bit of black in with the indigo, so it's going to be very dark. So these little white stars are really going to pop out. The little bug on the leaf is going to pop out, and then we're going to have some very pale peach flowers. So again, you don't have to leave them like this. So we've got more colours. So the next page, I look at it and I think, you know, it's going to be dry pigment, so it's got to be Neocolor 2s, Derwent Inktense pencils, Derwent pastel pencils, or Derwent watercolour pencils. I can scratch Inktense blocks, and I can use ordinary pastels, and I have them all. Pull the wrong one out. I have all my pastels in front of me in the little new box that I have, so I can scratch a bit of colour, and then when I manipulate that, it's going to make a really nice pure pigment. Very similar to the Neocolour 2s and the dough and art bars. But instead of being waxy, these are soft, chalky. So you need your colours between. I think Inktense blocks might look quite nice on here. Something quite vibrant. And then I can go softer on this side. But I'm not doing anything at all until... I'm not doing any manipulation with water until I finish the entire book. So that if I go away in summer, I've got a complete book to take with me. And again, just the watercolour brush. Probably take two, the number 2 and the number 1. So we've got a fat and a thin. And I would take the little tiny one. I have a little tiny one that I take with me as well for very tiny spaces. And you can manipulate the tiny one with the wet from here, and that's going to be wet enough. So you don't need any water with you except for what's in the water pot here in the barrel. And I can take this with me, and I can go on a train, I can go on the beach, I can go anywhere, and I don't have any other things with me. I don't have to worry about anything, and I can drop these and they're not going to damage. Whereas if you drop your Neocolour 2s or your Derwent pencils, you're going to be a bit upset. So that's another page with scratched Neocolour 2s in Magical Dawn, which I'm getting ready to finish in just scratched colour, ready to manipulate with a water brush. Thanks for watching.